All right, problem number 40. Carry out each calculation and report the answer using the proper number of significant figures. Now these are very simple calculations and you just need a calculator to do it, but the question requires you to answer with a proper number of sig figs. So just punching them into the calculator, I've shown the calculations here on the right. So punching A in the calculator, 49,682 times 0.80, you get this right here. So how many sig figs does the answer get? Well, you remember the multiplication division rule. When you're multiplying and or dividing numbers, the answer has the least number of sig figs of all of the things that you start with. So here, the first one, this is a 5 sig fig number. Okay, so I'll write 5 sig figs. And then the second one, this is a 2 sig fig number. You don't count the first 0, so there's a 1, 2 sig figs. So 5 sig figs versus 2 sig figs, and you keep 2. The answer is going to have 2 sig figs. So when you're looking at the answer over here on the right, you round it to the second significant figure. Okay, right there. So this is a 7. That's going to round up. Okay, so the 9's going to round up to 10. This is going to be basically 40, and then 0, 0, 0. So 39,745.6 is going to round up to 40,000. So this is a 2 sig fig 40,000. Now this is kind of tricky because it looks like a 1 sig fig number. You know, you just, I don't see the decimal point, so I'm not supposed to count any of those zeros. And so if you wanted to make sure your reader knows that this is a 2 sig fig number, you could, you know, underline the first 2 digits like I do. But that's not a conventional way of saying this is a 2 sig fig 40,000. The way that you can tell somebody it's a 2 sig fig 40,000 is by converting it to scientific notation. So 4.0 times 10 to the 4th. So there you go. Kind of tricky. Okay, this first one is tricky. Not so tricky in you know, doing the calculation or rounding it, but tricky in that the answer, you know, looks like it's only 1 sig fig. So, you know, the better way to represent a 2 sig fig 40,000 is like that. Okay, that's the tricky part. Okay, part B. This calculation is, I'm sorry, there it is. This calculation is simple enough to enter in the calculator, and so if you enter it in, 66.815 plus 2.82, that's what the calculator gives you. Okay, but where do we round this? Now, the addition subtraction rule is a little bit different than the multiplication division rule. The addition subtraction rule says that the answer keeps the least number of decimal places. Okay, so the way you figure that, the first one goes out to 3 decimal places, the second one goes out to 2, so you're going to chop it off at 2. You're going to round it right there. Okay, so that's how you do the addition subtraction rule is you know, the first one goes out to the 10th, 100th, 1,000th, but the second one only goes out to the 10th, 100th. So the answer is going to be limited to the 100th, and that's why I like to draw that vertical dotted line. So you line up the calculations with the decimal positions lined up, and then you draw the line, and then the answer will have the least number of decimal places. So it'll only go out to the 100th. So you can round it to this position. This is a 5, so that's going to round up to 69.64. Okay, so here, 69.64. That 3 rounds up to 4. Okay, so again, the answer is rounded to the 100th position. For C, 1,000 divided by 2.34, this is easy enough to enter in the calculator, and you get this, 427.350427, 350427, 35, and it keeps on continuing, you know, repeating 350427, but where do you chop it off? Well, again, this is multiplication division, so the answer has the least number of sig figs. So here, this is a 1 sig fig number, and this is a 3 sig fig number. So the answer is going to have 1. So this is 1 sig fig, this is 3 sig fig. The answer is going to have 1 sig fig. So you go over to the right, you're going to round it to the first position. So everything else is going to simply chop off. Because look at the next position, that's a 2. So 4 or less, you chop it off. So 427 point, all of that stuff is simply going to round to 400. Okay, D, 21 minus 0.88. Now this is addition subtraction again. Addition subtraction, you keep the least number of decimal places. And a good way to do that is simply to line up with the numbers that you're adding and or subtracting. So 21 minus 0.88, so this is how you line it up. Now 21, the last digit position is the ones. 0.88, the last digit position is the hundredth. So we're going to be limited to the ones. And again, here's where you go out to. This one goes all the way out to there. And so you draw that vertical wall, you're limited to the ones position, and that's where you round it to. So so that's the position that you round it to, and you look at the next number, this is 1, so 4 or less, it's going to chop off, so round it to 20. Okay, so you would write 20, but since that is a significant position, that's where we rounded it to, so we're saying that's the last significant position. We need to say it's a significant position by putting the dot there, okay? Because that's the position we rounded to. So I know it's kind of tricky. It takes a little practice on mastering sig figs, but once you get it, you get it. The next one, E, 25,000 divided by 0.4356. Simple enough to punch in a calculator. There you go. 57,392.102846648. It keeps on going. Eventually, you have repeating digits. I don't see the repetition yet, but it's somewhere down the line. Okay, but where do you, where do you round it? So again, this is multiplication division. The 25,000, this is a 2 sig fig number, 1, 2. Those zeros are not significant because I don't see the decimal point. And then the other one, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 sig fig number. You never count the zeros at the beginning. So 2 sig figs and 4 sig figs, multiplication division, you keep the least number of sig figs, and that's 2. And so this is, the answer is going to have 2 sig figs. So going to the answer now, over on the right, so 57,392 point all of that. So here's the first, here's the first sig fig and the second sig fig, and that's the one that we're going to round it to. So looking at the next digit, that's a 3, so it's going to be chopped off. Okay, so it's going to round to 57,000. Okay, 57,000. You don't just round it to 57. You have to have the same magnitude of a number. Okay, so it's 57,000, and you don't put zeros like that either, because that would make it look like you have more sig figs than just 2. Okay, so there you go. That's it. So the answer should have 2 sig figs, and that's 57,000. The last one in this problem is F. Okay, this is addition, subtraction. You're doing addition here, so you line it up. Okay, it's easy to punch in the calculator, and you line it up. There you go. So you punch it in, that's what you get. And now you use the addition, subtraction rule. The first one goes out all the way to the 10,000th position. The second one only goes out to the 100th position. So you're limited to the 100th position, and you can draw that vertical line, and you're limited to the 100th position of the answer right there. And so that's the one that you're going to round to, and that's an 8. Over here, so it's going to round up to 48.09. So 48.09. So hopefully that makes sense. Sig figs, again, are tricky. It does take practice, but if you do them enough, you will master it.